The Z-Fighters all gathered together for the 25th Tenkaichi Budokai. This all takes place 7 years after the defeat of Future Cell, as well as technically present Cell, but he was little more than a fetus when he was completely obliterated, Krillin and Piccolo having raided his lab to make sure that Jiro's greatest creation couldn't become a problem in the future. For the last 7 years, it's been peaceful, and the Z-Fighters have no reason to believe that anything will change. They're all gathering together for this tournament just to test which one of them is truly the strongest under the heavens. When all of these separate groups arrive to the tournament grounds, Krillin is incredibly shocked to see that Goku has another kid, this time named Goten, and Goku is equally shocked to see that Krillin has settled down as well, but this time with Android 18. They all knew that her and her brother had reformed under Piccolo's teachings, but to see that Krillin had actually settled down with someone who was a threat only a couple of years ago is still a little weird. Nevertheless, everybody is still happy for him. 17 would also be more connected with the group and would be participating in the tournament. After all, he still wants that boat, and there's a pretty sizable chunk of change if you win this thing, so he definitely signs up for it. Even weirder than the androids, though, is the fact that Gohan actually has a girlfriend. Her name is Videl, and Gohan met her while attending Orange Star High School. She's the daughter of Mr. Satan, the world champion, or at least soon-to-be former world champion. Oh, I'm just kidding, I know, there's nobody that could actually beat Hercule, but it's fun to joke about, right? Although, as the tournament contestants are finally selected, there are two people that stand out amongst the crowd. Two who certainly have to be alien, as they don't resemble any sort of species found on Earth. But for the time being, they're left alone, since there's no reason to suspect them for any sort of foul play. Although, as the tournament matches start off, another duo makes themselves known. A certain member of that duo absolutely pulverizing Videl, leading to Gohan lashing out, but knowing that he can't intervene. Although when her match is finally over, she would be brought to where the rest of the tournament fighters are, and Gohan would give her a Senzu Bean, that way she wouldn't have to stay in pain for very much longer. Although when the hybrid Saiyan enters his own match, it would be up against Kibito, one of the two individuals that seemed odd to the rest of the group. He would prompt Gohan to show off his full power, Super Saiyan and all, which is shocking since he didn't think that anybody in the tournament would know about Super Saiyan save their own group, but Gohan does still oblige, going one step further and demonstrating Super Saiyan 2. He might not have gotten the opportunity to fight against Cell and unlock the transformation there, but after 7 full years of training with Goku, Gohan would eventually achieve the form. His power is incredible, so much so that Spopovich and Yamu spring into action, sucking Gohan dry of all of his energy before fleeing. Normally, Gohan would have been able to retaliate, however, the Supreme Kai was just barely able to keep him paralyzed long enough for the two to sap him of his energy. Shin and Kibito would explain why they needed this to happen, as Gohan is given a Senzu Bean. The Z-Fighters would quickly follow Spopovich and Yamu, only staying a little while behind, that way they wouldn't be immediately detected. Eventually, they would have reached Babidi's spaceship, where they watched Spopovich and Yamu get grotesquely executed. Although the arrival of the Z-Fighters had not gone unnoticed, so Babidi would send Deborah to go deal with their new visitors. With a single, slightly kinky attack, Krillin would be turned to stone, although Piccolo would be able to narrowly avoid the same fate, being able to dodge Deborah's spit. The Namekian warrior had spent the last 7 years training with the androids. There was absolutely no way he was going to be caught lacking by such a weak opponent, at least in comparison. Although Deborah would still be able to flee, retreating back to Babidi, that way the warlock was not left defenseless. The group, being led by Supreme Kai, would then invade the wizard's ship, and being met with numerous challenges, the Z-Fighters would still persevere. Vegeta being able to easily overpower Pui Pui, and Goku being able to overload Yakon with light, leading to both of Babidi's henchmen destroyed, and the final challenge being Deborah, the so-called King of the Demons. And having already claimed that very same title years ago, Piccolo would decide to take on Deborah on his own, while the others go after Babidi. With the already conservative way that Piccolo fights, he would be able to not expend nearly enough energy to revive Buu, while still being able to take on Deborah with relative ease. With the incredible potential of the androids and Piccolo being an excellent teacher, all three would have gotten drastically more powerful than Super Perfect Cell, which Deborah was compared to. And although the group was still being cautious as to not release enough energy to revive Buu or give Babidi any excess power, they were still too late, as the second that Gohan's energy was taken and given to Babidi, Buu was already on course to be revived. After 7 years training, Gohan was far more powerful than his original self, so utilizing Super Saiyan 2, his power was enough to revive Buu on its own. Everything he had thrown at them past the initial interaction with Deborah had simply been stalling for Gohan's energy to be processed into the egg, and now with the Majin's resurrection underway, the universe's greatest threat has finally been unleashed. Thankfully though, the group is still at max power, because Vegeta had fought against Goku many times over the time skip, and thus wouldn't be corrupted by his desire for a challenge, meaning that he wouldn't turn Majin, and he's still a force fighting against Babidi. And admittedly, the entire group working at max power, all ganging up on Buu, is actually able to overpower the Majin. Surprisingly, Buu is being put on the back foot, although with Babidi screaming in his ear and all of these super mean guys rushing at him, Buu begins to rage out. Buu separates into two different versions of himself, one that looks about the same as before, a fat pink blob, and the other that is gray and skinny and an all-around evil variant of himself. The Z-Fighters aren't sure which side to take, or if they should just let the two Majins work it out on their own, although eventually the evil-looking version of Buu absorbs the other and turns into Super Buu. This one much stronger than the other fatter version. He is able to regain his lead over the group, but ever so slightly, and it begins to diminish once Piccolo rejoins the fight, having finished off Deborah. Buu is angered at the fact that he isn't able to beat them even now, but then he gets an idea. He detaches bits of himself and throws it around the battleground. Then, carrying on like normal, two fighters disappear, being engulfed by the pink goo. Gohan and Piccolo were both being grabbed, sucked in by the liquid, and then merging with Buu himself. Piccolo was by far the smartest of the group, and Gohan had a sizable lead in terms of raw power output. And with Buu reaching an entirely new level of power, Babidi would still think he's in control, demanding that Buu finish off all these other weaklings right away. However, it's not going to be that easy for him. Suddenly, the Warlock is entirely erased with a single attack. But even the monstrous Majin does have to admit that the wizard was onto something. If he gives the rest of the group time to adapt, then there's no telling how strong they could get. So he begins picking off fighters one by one, killing them with effortless ease. Vegeta would be taken out with a Masenko through the chest, whereas 17 would get demon eye beams straight through the android's very own. However, this wasn't just to lighten the load against him. Buu had Gohan's memories after absorbing him, so he knew that not only was Gohan holding back, but so was his father. However, Buu wasn't just going to kill Goku. No, he might be the biggest threat here, but he's still nothing as long as Buu gets rid of his friends. Then, when Goku shows off that strength, Buu can absorb him just like his kid. But surprisingly, Goku isn't the only one to lash out, as Android 18 immediately rushes at the monster, utilizing all of the power that she can possibly muster to get back at the person who killed her brother. Screaming at Boo to bring him back, Android 18 launches blast after blast, before then powering up a Destructo disc she learned from her husband, before then throwing it at Boo. However, even though it cleaves the monster in half, Boo is able to regenerate with seemingly no effort. But while regenerating, Goku powers down into regular Super Saiyan, then focusing his mind and activating Ikari on top. This power is unstable and takes a hell of a lot of focus to control. However, Goku is able to utilize it briefly to launch a beam at Boo. This causes the Majin to begin to disintegrate, however he is still alive. He's able to come back from seemingly endless damage, and Goku knows that. However, he also knows that if they stand any sort of a chance against Boo, they have to get out of there now. So while Boo is struggling to regenerate, Supreme Kai calls everyone over, before then teleporting them all to the realm of the Kais. That way they can regroup and try and find some way to fight back against that monster. Kibito would begin to heal everybody there, bringing them back to tip-top shape. Supreme Kai would then get in contact with King Yema, telling him that when 17 and Vegeta arrive at his check-in station, to have them sent to the realm of the Kaioshin. This would be done, and after only a couple of minutes, both 17 and Vegeta would reunite with the rest of the group. And immediately, Vegeta brings up a pretty good point, that if Boo absorbed Piccolo, then he has instant transmission, and if he also has the memories of Gohan and Piccolo, he should be able to sense where they all are. It'll probably take him a while, but he will eventually be able to find them, even here. Nowhere in the universe is safe, which is when Goku has an idea, telling Shin to get in contact with Dende and Bulma. That way they can collect the Dragon Balls and make a very specific wish. And having no reason to doubt the Saiyan, Supreme Kai does so. When the Dragon Balls are gathered and Shinron is summoned, Goku would ask that they use a wish to make sure all key signatures are hidden for the next 72 hours. And as for the second wish, Goku says that they should ask Shinron to wait a little while. That way, when the time comes, they're able to use that wish to revive everybody that Boo kills. But since he's still on the loose, they need to wait a little while. However, this was only the first part of his plan, as Goku then asks if Supreme Kai can teleport them back to Earth, unless his teleportation works the same way as Piccolo's. However, it doesn't. Supreme Kai is able to go pretty much anywhere in the universe without the need to lock onto key signatures, which works out perfectly. Although they're going to need help from Fortune Teller Baba if they wish to bring Vegeta and 17 back to Earth, although the two reject, saying that they'll just train here. So Supreme Kai introduces them to the Z-Sword. That way their training can be as effective as possible. And after pulling the sword from the stone, the two of them would begin training with the mythical artifact, while everybody else returned to the lookout, and Goku explains the Room of Spirit and Time to the Kais. Not only are they now able to get a year of training in just a single day on the outside of the room, but they also have Kibito and Supreme Kai, who will majorly boost their training efficiency. Thanks to Kibito, they can go all out in their training without worrying about hurting each other because Kibito can heal them. And as for Shin, he'll make sure that everyone can enter the room all together rather than having a two-person limit, because he's able to create anything he wants, such as food and water. And the Boo arc showed us that there's no magical limit to how many people can be in there. It's simply a resource issue. And now, not wasting any more time, everyone begins their training. Inside of the Room of Spirit and Time, everyone would get much more powerful. However, the one to see the most gains is Goku, having truly mastered the uncontrollable power of Super Saiyan and Ikari. Although he feels that there's something beyond this, even though he mastered the combined power, he can tell there's a level beyond, kind of like a Super Saiyan 2 with the perfect mesh of the powers. But it's more than just a second stage to this power. It's something entirely new, based on the perfect blend of Super Saiyan and Ikari. He just can't access it yet. He doesn't have the necessary catalyst, although he believes that once they fight Buu, he'll be able to achieve that transformation. As for 17 and Vegeta back on the realm of the Supreme Kai, the Z-Sword would break after only a single day of training. Elder Kai would pop out, and as a thanks, he would offer to unlock their potentials, giving them an ultimate transformation. However, Vegeta rejects this, saying he would rather die than utilize power that isn't his. He works for every last bit of strength that he acquires, whereas 17 has an opposite reaction, accepting the transformation with many thanks. After only a day of sitting in a circle, 17 would acquire a brand new power. And even though it does kinda hurt his pride, 17 wasn't ever the most prideful of individuals. And even though Vegeta is now being put on the back foot during the final day of their training, Vegeta is still attempting to utilize the Ikari and Super Saiyan transformation that Goku was as well. However, he's still in the early stages, the more uncontrollable power, yet he's able to get a mastery over it far quicker than Goku, being the Saiyan Prince and all. And when the third day is being brought to a close, not only would Elder Kai have a specific gift for both Android 17 and Vegeta, but the rest of the gang would return to the realm of the Kais. Back on that first thing though, Elder Kai would give away his life force to Vegeta and 17. It's not like he would be going off the realm of the Kais all that very often, so he believes it'd be better suited in the hands of the Prince and the android. And seeing as one of them is basically a robot, it doesn't take much of his life force to be given to him. Since it's being split between two people, it'll probably only last them like 200 or 300 years, but hey, friendships come with sacrifices. When everybody else arrives, they're shocked to see not only are Vegeta and 17 alive, but there's some strange new Kai there. This makes no sense, but Elder Kai would explain everything. And with everybody caught up, they would begin plotting on how to take down Buu with the little bit of time they have left being masked by the wish. Yes, altogether they are much stronger than they were before, but at the same time, all of their power is split between multiple different people. And seeing as Buu can pick them off one by one, or God forbid even absorb them, then how are they supposed to take him down? They'll need to be quick and efficient, but they're just not sure if with all these different moving parts, they'll be able to take down Buu. And that's when Elder Kai steps in, telling them about fusion. The Potara fusion specifically. If two people wear one earring from the same set of Potara, then they'll be able to fuse into an entirely new being, one made up of all of the best parts of each warrior, with none of the downsides, as well as being much stronger than the sum of its parts. If he had to guess, the two best candidates for fusion here would be Android 17 and 18, as well as Goku and Vegeta. The latter pair consisting of two people incredibly similar in strength, as well as both trying to master the same abilities, and the former pair is literally just twins. But in an odd, out-of-character moment, Vegeta would step forward saying that he'll be the one to fuse with Goku. But as he explains his reasoning, it becomes a bit more in line with the Prince. He says that both he and Kakarot were training to unlock the same sort of power, overcome the gap between Super Saiyan and Ikari and whatever comes beyond. And if they were to fuse into this new ultra-powerful warrior, he has no doubt they'll be able to achieve the next stage of Super Saiyan. And even though Elder Kai says that it's permanent, Vegeta believes that they'll be able to wish to defuse on the dragonballz, although needing to use the ones on Namek since they already have plans for the ones on Earth. And speaking of Earth, when they arrive, Goku and Vegeta would put on the Potara, whereas all of the other fighters would get on guard, understanding that they'll most likely be the subjects of absorption if they let their guard down for even a second. The wish they used on Shinron now deactivates with a full 72 hours up, and they find Buu, who was wreaking havoc on a certain city, that way he could get some absolutely lovely snacks, made out of people. Although the legendary warrior Vegito is born and would rush Boo. While only using his base state, he's somehow able to keep up with the Majin. And after upping it to Super Saiyan, there's absolutely no way Boo can keep up. However, the Z-Fighters weren't the only ones growing stronger, as Boo had been utilizing Gohan's potential and tapping into the power beyond Super Saiyan that Gohan had reached. Although it's only a mix of Super Saiyan and Ikari, is still enough to majorly increase Boo's power and allow him to fight on par even with Vegito. Although he had only been using the surface of his power. Delving even deeper beyond, he would activate the Super Saiyan Ikari mashup, except this time fully mastered. However, that wasn't the end, as Vegito continued to power up, now transcending his limits while Boo attempts to glob off pieces of himself and throw it onto Vegito, but it does nothing, the remnants of Boo beginning to burn up in his fiery aura. He lets out a primal and beastly scream as he then transforms into a power beyond anything the universe has ever seen. His shirt rips off as hair begins to grow, covering the fused warrior. His power surges to an extent that Boo can barely even comprehend, as he has now reached the penultimate transformation of the Saiyans. His hair turns back to black, although there is a crimson red fur over his entire body. He then rushes at Boo and puts only 2 fingers out. Then he turns his hand and positions it in the style of a finger gun, shooting off various blasts, each one more powerful than Boo could even muster, utilizing all of his strength. However, this is merely casual for Vegito. With just that simple attack, Boo is near dead. Vegito begins to think to himself if there's any way to save the people that are inside of the Majin Warrior. But then he remembers that neither Gohan nor Piccolo have been revived by the Earth's Dragon Balls. So then, as Boo tries to create an attack to destroy the Earth, finally allowing him to go undefeated, Vegito appears in front of it, kicking it aside before then apologizing to Gohan and Piccolo, using a Kamehameha to completely eviscerate the Majin. Every last little bit of him destroyed, that way he can't regenerate. And with the Dragon Balls already gathered, they would wish back their friends, as well as everyone that was killed by Boo in his rampage. Thankfully, the Potara fusion wasn't actually permanent, so before they even get the chance to head to New Namek, Goku and Vegeta would defuse, now returning to their own bodies. And as peace finally returns to the Earth, a new threat awakens far, far away. He's in search of a proper challenge, and the power he felt while asleep intrigues him to no end.